Hi there Booktube, it's Eleanor here and it's time for my What I Read. So before we go into the books that I read this week, and I have had a really good reading week, I wanted to do my Booktuber shout out for the week. This week I want to shout out a booktuber who I've recently discovered, and her name is Jean and her booktube channel is such a bookaholic. I'm really enjoying watching her videos. She's done some really good hauls, she's done some trips to some really good places, she's just been to Hale and Wye Literary Festival, which I adore. She reads interesting books and I'm just really enjoying watching her videos. So I'll link her as always down below. Go and check her out, show her some booktubey love if you like her channel, and yeah, go and see and be lovely as you always are. So the first book that I completed this week was a little bit of a surprise. I read A Court of Thorns and Roses last year. I gave it 4 stars, although it was probably just a 4-star, you know, closer to sort of a 3.5, 4 stars. But I wasn't going to carry on with the series. I didn't think it was for me. It was quite a slow read. I wasn't loving it. And then everyone started saying how much they loved A Court of Mist and Fury. And so I picked it up. And I started reading and I loved it. I can't tell you what it's about because it will ruin book 1 if you haven't read it. It's a much slower read than I'm used to. Her writing forces you to take your time with the story, and that is unusual for me in sort of a YA. I tend to go for the sort of fast-paced, let's get through it sort of type of story that drags you through. This one is a lot slower paced, but I didn't mind. I loved spending time with the characters. This one took me a good 4 days I think to read, and I loved it. I really loved it. I gave it 5 stars and I just can't wait to carry on with this series now. The next book I picked up was my Booktuber Recommends for the month from Kirsty at Kirsty on Books, and she recommended When I Forgot by Alina Hervonen. This is only a couple of hundred pages long, so it was a really good faster read. I read this in one sitting. I found it a little bit confusing. It's flitting back and forward in time because it wasn't sort of just going back to one time period. It was flitting between lots of different times in the past, which I found a little confusing at times. But it was written in a way that it had me wanting to carry on and find out what was going on. And we're following a girl called Anna. She's sitting in a cafe alone. She's drinking and smoking and thinking about her past. And that is when we are getting the flashbacks from the past. This book touches on mental illness and also on war. It had the potential to be something really great, but unfortunately it just didn't give me the emotional response that I was hoping for. I was left feeling confused at times, and so I was unable to give it any more than 3 stars. The next book was a book I picked up from the biannual Bibliothon, and that was Solitaire by Alice Oseman. I really wanted to love this book, and I didn't. I just liked it. I didn't hate it, but it wasn't a love. It was more of a like book. It's a contemporary YA story, and it very much captures what it is like to be a teenager. There are triggers in this book for self-harm and mental illness and eating disorders, so be aware of that if you are thinking of reading it. It's a YA contemporary story. Tori is a pessimistic, introverted blogger from the UK, and we're following her first year in sixth form, where she's sort of 16, 17 years old. One thing I really enjoyed about this is that the romance wasn't the central focus of the story. However, I really kind of wish that romance had stayed more of a friendship. I don't think it was really needed. I think it would have been better had it stayed as just a really strong friendship between the 2 characters. I would have really liked to have seen that happen. I also really wish we'd seen more of the relationship between her and her family and why it was the way it was, and not her siblings, sorry, I should say, her and her parents. I wish we'd seen, because we see her parents in it, but we don't really know why there's all these feelings that she has towards them and why there is this sort of strained relationship, and I wish we'd sort of delved a little bit more into that as well. So it was an okay read, it just wasn't a great one, so I gave it 3 stars. Next up for the biannual Bibliothon, I read The Square Root of Summer by Harriet Ruta Hapgood. This is sort of an ARC cover, but I picked it up in a charity shop. This is a story of Gotti, and she lives with her dad and her grandfather and her brother, and we find out at the very start of the story that her grandfather died a year ago and her brother went off to university, so she's just been problem with her father, and we're following her sort of through grief. Her brother is back from university and it's summer, and we're following her and her friendship group, and romance is in there as well. The main problem I had with this book is that it made me feel a bit stupid. There is lots and lots of references in here to lots of black holes and wormholes and various things, and although the author has done a wonderful job of breaking it down and explaining it, I still struggled to get my head around some of the concepts, which in the end meant that it sort of pulled me out the story a little bit, because I was like, what? I don't understand. How does what, and what's the science behind this? And science really was never my thing, and it has to be completely dumbed down for me to get it. So unfortunately I got a bit lost at times, but I can see the it's a special story. It's a really good story, but because of that I couldn't give it more than 3 stars, because I just kept getting pulled out of the story because I was trying to work out the science. So if you really enjoy science and you like that type of thing, I think you're going to really enjoy this. And you know, you've only got to be well, everyone will be fine. I'm just not very good at science and scientific theories, so yeah, it was a good book, but not a great one again, so 3 stars. The next book I also finished for the Biannual Bibliothon was Persuasion by Jane Austen. I was reading this with 2 lovely ladies, Tracy from Flamingo Reads and Amanda from Amanda J, and we've been reading this about 50 pages a day. It's quite a short Jane Austen. This one started off and I wasn't going to enjoy it. I could tell I wasn't going to enjoy it. It just didn't seem like it was going in a direction that I was going to enjoy. It felt a bit slow, and then all of a sudden it really picked up, and I got it, and I got the little things that were sort of going on, and the little cultural references and societal references and the little sort of tongue-in-cheek bits, and I ended up really enjoying this and gave it 4 stars. It's the story of Anne, and she is the middle daughter of 3 in a family who the mother has died and the father is very extravagant, and they are struggling for money and have to rent out their family home, and so her elder sister and father moved to Bath, and Anne is sort of always shunted around to sort of look after everybody, and her younger sister Mary has children and is having more on the way, and so she is sent off to live with her for a bit to look after her. And when she is now sort of 25, 27 I think, and when she was 19 she was engaged to be married to a man called Mr. Wentworth, who she was in love with. They were both madly in love with each other, but she was persuaded to break off the engagement to him because he wasn't considered a good match, because he didn't have a fortune and he wasn't sort of high up in the social status. And it's now sort of 7 years later, he's become an admiral in the Navy and has made his fortune, and their paths cross, and it goes from there. And it's really interesting and really good, and it's really nice to see grown-up characters, and I ended up really enjoying it. I didn't love it as much as I loved Emma or Pride and Prejudice, but I really ended up enjoying it, and definitely more than Mansfield Park. So I gave this one 4 stars. And then the final book I want to talk about this week is The Unexpected Everything by Morgan Matson, and I also read this for the Biannual Bibliothon. This was the group read that everyone who was taking part that was doing the challenges had to read. I've read Morgan Matson Since You've Been Gone, and I wanted to read this one, and I'd picked it up anyway in a charity shop, so I was really excited to get stuck in, and I wasn't disappointed. I really enjoyed this story. It's a YA contemporary story, but I feel with Morgan Matson's stories there's a lot more depth than you would necessarily expect from these types of stories, and she doesn't dumb down what she's writing to get the points across, which I really enjoy. In the story we're following Andy. Her father is a congressman, and there has been a bit of a scandal, and so he's had to take the summer off while there's some investigation going on. Andy's very used to sort of running her own life. She's very organised, she's very used to not getting into trouble and being the good girl and sort of not doing anything to cause any problems for her dad's political career. And we're following her when plans don't go as she expects for the summer, and she ends up becoming a dog walker, and she meets someone, and it's about the friendship group, and it's about this man that she meets, and it's about expectations, and it's very much got family in it and her relationship with her dad, which I really like. We often don't see these relationships with family adults in YA contemporary books, they seem to sort of not exist in a lot of them, and I really love that that's not true with this, and it was just really good. I read it in about a day and a half, and it was one that I really didn't want to put down, and I really enjoyed it. So I gave this one 4 stars. So that's all I read this week. It was quite a lot because I did the readathon. I'm back on a TBR, which really gets me going and gets me reading. Definitely go and check out Jean from Such a Bookaholic. I think you'll really enjoy her channel, and as I say, it's linked down below. Show her some bookish love, and come back next week and we'll talk more books. Bye for now, Booktube.